Number 12. Charles Manson. My father-in-law was involved in the music scene in the late 60s and went to a party where he met Charles Manson. He said he was leaving with a friend to go and get cigarettes when Charles came up and started talking to him. My father-in-law was wearing a cross around his neck, and he said Charles reached out and grabbed it and kind of twirled it with his fingers and asked if he knew who Jesus Christ was. Needless to say, they didn't go back after getting their cigarettes, and he said when he heard about the murders he wasn't too surprised. Number 11. Ed Gein. My grandpa's aunt bought meat from Ed Gein and served it to the family on more than one occasion. Was probably normal meat but super creepy still. Apparently he was just a loner guy in town, but not threatening or anything. Number 10. Donald Harvey. In the 80s, I worked at a VA hospital down the hall from Donald Harvey, and I used to see him all the time. He seemed okay if a little flamboyant. He could get really pissy with people that crossed him. Some of his co-workers developed mysterious illnesses. I heard later one was tested and arsenic was found. He reassigned after some problems rather than be fired. It said they found specimens from the morgue in his locker. He was hired by another medical facility and was later convicted of mercy killings there and also others. Number 9. Adam Lanzler. I met Adam Lanzler as a kid. He played Magic the Gathering at a comic book shop, Bear 18 Centre I went to concerts at. He was nice enough but always worn a button-down shirt and carried a briefcase as a teenager. Your run-of-the-mill bullied, possibly autistic kid. Number 8. Eileen Wuornos. Eileen Wuornos, an executed serial killer in FL, killed a bunch of men. She and her girlfriend used to come into this dive bar / liquor store I was assigned manager of. I had to kick her out of the bar one night because she was throwing glass ashtrays at the barmaid, accusing her of trying to hook up with her girlfriend. She was always causing problems, but that was the last I saw her. Thankfully found out about her on the news when she was caught. Blew my mind, but I could definitely see how she was capable of doing that, having known her as a bad customer for about 5 months. Number 7. Gary Ridgway. I lived next to Gary Ridgway, aka the Green River Killer. Odd guy and overly friendly. Found out from my mum, who called me minutes before it broke on the news. It was surreal. The killings were an unsolved mystery for years, almost to the point of supernatural. Number 6. Cary Stayner. He had already committed the murders at this point, but Cary Stayner tried to rent my neighbour's house. Me, 12 at the time, and my 17-year-old sister would have probably been prime candidates for his next victims. He was found at the nudist colony down the street. Number 5. Paul Bernardo. My mum taught Paul Bernardo whilst he was in university. She had him switch to a different class due to him eyeing her down constantly. My mum was a young blonde at the time. She made sure not to go near him. Good call on her part. Number 4. John Wayne Gacy. Not me, but my dad once told me he was working on a house in the late 70s. When a neighbour came by, he asked him if he could come over to his house and give him a quick appraisal for some work. My dad got weird feelings and told him that they didn't operate that way and he needed to call the office to schedule something. Not too long after that, the police caught John Wayne Gacy. My dad swears it's the same dude. Number 3. Harold Shipman. My grandma, who was a real estate agent, was called by a doctor, explaining he had to push back their meeting to sell his surgery. He told her he was being questioned by the police, but advised it was just silly season, and he rearranged for the week after. The doctor was Harold Shipman, who was charged with the murders of over 300 patients. Number 2. Ted Bundy. My next door neighbour's friend worked at a ski resort. There was a regular guy. He was always friendly and polite. He would make small talk with her. He was a good-looking guy too. He made an impression. Some years later she saw him on the news. Turns out he was Ted Bundy and that he had abducted one of his victims in the car park of their resort. Number 1. Peter Sutcliffe. Not me, but my mum. She was walking home and a man drove past and asked her if she wanted a lift. My mum refused, of course, even though back then it wasn't so risky to accept lifts. He drove off and my mum forgot about it. A while later, Peter Sutcliffe, the Yorkshire Ripper, was caught. This is a guy who killed 13 women and attacked a few more over a period of 5 years. My mum recognised him as the man who offered her a lift.